Today we are going to be talking about colorism, featurism, and texturism. Now, I know a lot of us know and understand what colorism is, but featurism, hey Silky, featurism and texturism are newer concepts that I think a lot of people are unaware of and don't have a true understanding of. It would be a good conversation to have in the Black community, especially right now in the times that we're dealing with. Everyone is so worried and focused on racism and all that. And that, I mean, and again, let's not get it twisted. That is very important. However, we need to address the prejudices that we hold within our own community so that we can unite as one and get on common ground in order to move forward and combat the racism that we're experiencing from other races in the outside world. If we don't fix home, we can't fix the rest of the world. You know what I'm saying? If we are disjointed in our own house, how can we change things in the world? I feel like if you are a Black American, you definitely have dealt with colorism, and colorism hurts more, I feel like, just personally, because it's your own people. You know, it's your own people that are treating you in an inopportune way because based on how you look. Lisa says, yes, ma'am, I have dark-skinned friends that I've experienced a lot of colorism, especially growing up. I've also experienced it the other way around. I just think it's sad that we discriminate in our own community. What is colorism? Okay, according to dictionary.com, colorism is defined as the differential treatment based on skin color, especially favoritism towards those with a lighter skin tone and mistreatment or exclusion of those with a darker skin tone, typically among those of the same racial group or ethnicity. So again, that is the definition from dictionary.com. And I want to push back against that definition just a little bit. I do think that is typically what we associate to be colorism. However, people in a community that has predominantly dark-skinned women, they can exclude light-skinned women or mixed race women, as Lisa Dix was saying. So it can go both ways. I personally don't feel that it's typically seen as the mistreatment of the dark-skinned women and the acceptance and pushing forward of the light-skinned women. However, it can go both ways, in my opinion. Stokes-Stallings' definition of colorism is the inherent bias and mistreatment of someone strictly based on their skin color, typically from someone of their same race. And this is not exclusive to the Black community, as I'm sure many of you know, in the Hispanic, Latin communities, like for instance in the Dominican Republic. I can't remember the term that they call, but there is a specific term that they call dark-skinned Black women, dark-skinned Dominican women, and light-skinned Dominican women. You know, dark-skinned Dominican people and such is a term, that a derogatory term, and I can't think of it right now. You have it in the Indian culture. When you think of the Indian culture, you tend to think of a fairer skinned person, when there are a lot of Indian people who are even my skin color, but you don't often see them in the mainstream. So again, this can go around any ethnicity that has color, including, you know, Asians, whomever. So many beautiful shades in our race. It's hurtful that we do it to each other. Yes, it definitely is. It's a mentality that keeps us behind other ethnicities. And again, I push back against that and say it's not. It's a mentality that keeps us in bondage within our own community. I don't think it has anything to do with other ethnicities right now, because they have it in theirs as well. The only race or ethnicity or whatever that does not have colorism, as far as I know, are white people, and that's because they're all white and they want to get tan. So Russell says, do you think colorism started from as far back as slavery, house slaves and field slaves? Yes, many do believe that is the origin, and that's so ingrained and embedded in our DNA from that sense that that's where people believe it to come from. Personally, because it's prevalent in other races as well, I think it comes from the Eurocentric standard of beauty. And I think for Black people, it has been definitely ingrained in us because of slavery, but I think it would have been prevalent even without that because of the push of the Eurocentric standard of beauty. Colorism is often called the daughter of racism and can be seen across all cultures of color. Colorism has been so ingrained in our history that many times we are unaware of its presence. And I have a few examples to give y'all. The thing about colorism is that instead of celebrating all these varying shades like we see in this picture, in the world of media, we are pushed a more acceptable color for Black women. So, for instance, Juju, as much as I love me some Juju, and I think Juju is a gorgeous woman, she's not often the type of woman that you would see previously being pushed in mainstream. It would be more, even like this middle row here, probably about as dark as her. It will be nice and say this lady here in the orange, probably about as dark as her, is what we would typically see. Now, I'm going to speak from my own personal experience. I'm not even a super dark skinned woman. I am, don't get me wrong, I am a dark skinned woman, but I am far from the darkest skinned woman out there, you know. But I didn't see myself often. And so when you aren't represented in the media or in mainstream or things like that, you tend to question, why am I different? That it made me personally become resentful towards my fair skinned sisters, and they didn't even contribute to it. My inherent bias of disliking lighter skinned women did not come because of how they treated me. It came because of how I felt invisible. Crazy how those battles played out growing up. I was disliked by a lot of dark-skinned girls, and at the same time, I suffered under that because I just did not understand why as a child. At a young age like that, you don't know that that's colorism. It was a battle for me to love myself for myself. I never wanted to change my skin tone. I was reinforced at home that my skin was beautiful. As a matter of fact, my father told me all the time how beautiful my chocolate skin was. He was like, you could be chocolater. You could be darker. And so it was a very weird paradigm where I loved my chocolate skin. I loved my skin. However, I resented women or girls of lighter skin because they received more attention. Let's see what else you're saying. Coco says, agreed. I didn't know what colorism was when I was younger. I just knew some of my friends annoyed me because how they spoke on dark-skinned people as if they were better. I never thought like that. Yes, and it's such an ingrained bias. And when you're a child and people are speaking that way, you have to address where they're hearing it from. Just like with these kids right now that are on the TikTok, that are saying racist things. They didn't learn that, they didn't come up with that on them by themselves. You get what I'm saying? They were taught that. So somewhere in the home, it was reinforced. And that's a big issue. And that's something that we need to correct within our own homes. CNN's family says, most of my family is darker skin. I'm pretty much the lightest and I'm not light. So I was kind of the other way around for us. Family used to tease me. And it's so sad that a lot of the most pain that we receive for our color is in our own household. It's in our own household. That's what I say. That's what I mean when I say things are taught at home first and then pushed out. Sociology, we are taught that it begins with the home dynamic. Then surrounding your home dynamic is your community dynamic. Then surrounding your community dynamic, let's say, would be your city dynamic. Then surrounding that would be your country dynamic, and then would be the world. But it all comes down to your core, which is your family. If you start with a dysfunctional foundation, you push that out to the rest of the dynamics that you are interacting with. So a lot of our coloristic tendencies start at home. They start at home, and it is our responsibility as people who are woke, or as people who are trying to better ourselves and better our community, to first check any inherent biases that we hold within our home, then within our community, then within our work, then within, you know, our church, or however your Venn diagram of consciousness flows. You get what I'm saying? Going back to what I was saying about not being seen, feeling like I was not seeing myself in media. There were some sitcoms that did have strong, powerful, dark-skinned women, but then crazily enough, you wouldn't see them. You know, you would see them for a while and then you wouldn't see them. The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Many fans of the show were outraged by the recasting of the beloved character Vivian, but also because of just the aesthetics of the new actress. As many of us remember, Aunt Viv was played by Janet Louise Hubert, but after, I think, 2 or 3 seasons, she was replaced by Daphne Maxwell Reid. We all remember this. And one thing about the recasting of Aunt Viv that always confused me, just little things that this recasting in particular, because it happened so early in the show and the second actress had so many seasons. Did y'all notice the difference in Aunt Viv when she became recasted? The difference in her character arc. That's what I mean when I say the difference. Did y'all notice the difference of her character arc when she got recasted? The dark-skinned Aunt Viv was she was a very educated woman, but she was feisty. She was what would be considered sassy. She would check people. I remember there was one scene where she was ready to fight somebody. She was taking off her earrings. The lighter skinned Aunt Viv became very much more docile. She was much more soft spoken. You never heard anything else about her being a college professor. You never heard anything else about her education. And it was like a 180 to the dark skinned Aunt Viv. I could be going a little too in depth with that thought process. Y'all tell me if I'm off, but that kind of plays into that thought process to me of, you know how they say white women are more passive, and we tend to think that, like, you know, our skin got fairer because of integration of white blood. So the lighter skinned woman kind of played into that more passive, docile thing versus the black woman, always the darker skinned woman always being this sassy, fiery person. And that's bothersome that was the switch that automatically happened. Even if you change the character, but we all know that there were some behind the scene things between her and Will Smith, which is why she left the show. However, even with her leaving the show, why did the character change? It was the same character, but why was her attitude so different? What about this new character, this new actress? What about this new actress that made the writers decide that it was okay to take Aunt Viv away from being this educated, strong matriarch into this docile figure that we saw? So again, that's that bias. That's a bias that I feel is a negative bias towards this fair skinned actress. So that's why I say colorism isn't just negative actions towards dark skin. It's towards anyone based on their skin color. That's why I make that argument. In a lot of cases, sadly, the directors always have a vision of what they want, and they tend to lean towards the lighter to whiter actors and actresses. And by excluding women and excluding girls and women that look like me, growing up, it's what reinforced the kind of biases that I was already seeing in my community. You get what I'm saying? Which is why colorism is something that is so embedded.
Now, this was just a snippet of our conversation on colorism, featurism, and texturism. So if you missed it, don't worry. I'm going to give you some more recaps. Just continue to check back with my channel so you can see part 2 and part 3. But before you go, I want to show y'all some of my other YouTube family and give y'all a sneak peek at their channels. Make sure that you go by and check them out and let them know that Be Stoked Styling sent you. So stay tuned. First channel that I want to shout out is Bae Bella Mukbangs. If you like mukbangs and challenges, then you want to make sure you head over and check out their channel. So here's a little sneak peek of their Dirty Dozen challenge.
I don't know, babe.
That's so bad.
I think. Oh, I don't know. Ooh, I don't know.
That's kind of hard.
No.
Thank God we could drink.
Look at my sausage. Make your own sausage.
Ooh. And some water. I thought this was going to be easy.
So don't forget to head over to Bae Bella Mukbangs and let them know that Be Stoked Styling sent you. Before we leave, I want to give a special shout out to my Patreons. And if you want to join Patreon, all you have to do is click the link below. I'll see y'all next week.